Hello, everyone. I'm here with a big baller today, my friend Martin Melchor. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a couple of years now. I'm playing against him for a little while. Martin, if you don't mind, can you just introduce yourself, where you're coaching, and give us a little bit of info about you? That'd be great.
Yeah, man. Martin Melchor, head men's and women's soccer coach here at Jacksonville College in Jacksonville, Texas, junior college program. Been here it's going to be my third year. But yeah.
Okay, so I think the main thing for me, because I obviously don't know you as well as some of the other people that I talk to. So I think for me, this is kind of a good interview as well because I get to learn a little bit more about you as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I know you went to Coastal Carolina, which is
Mhm.
a big Division One, program, pretty historic. I guess the main question to start off with is how did you end up there? Was it kind of through the club route? Did you go, or did you get noticed in high school? What was the process for you to kind of get noticed by them?
Yeah, it was honestly pretty lucky. I wasn't playing for a big club. The only really thing I did was ODP. I did Jacksonville High School and I did ODP. And then I worked my way up through ODP. So I did state and then I did region. And once I got to that regional, then I really got looked at by a couple schools. And it wasn't like Coastal was at the tournament watching me. It was a recommendation
Okay.
from coaches that was there. And a couple coaches that knew Coach Docking. So I was recommended and I was basically given that shot. It was either Coastal or look for a JUCO program around here. So I got pretty lucky, ran with it, and then obviously had a successful career there. But it was near my senior year, so there wasn't a lot of options. But I got very fortunate, and I just ran with it.
Okay, so you're kind of one of them. I don't want to say one in a million, but like you said, you were pretty lucky with the
Yeah,
opportunity you got given.
yeah,
Um, Being from smaller town in Texas, I'm sure you see a lot of boys like yourself coming up that
yeah.
kind of have them dreams and aspirations to do the same. Is there anything you can say you think you done to kind of help yourself get there, or do you think it was just purely lucky at the time and it worked out?
Well, I think I always believed that I was, going to find a big school. And I did the whole, email everybody I
Yeah.
could, find as many showcases I could do, um, basically use every outlet to get looked at. And it was that OGP term that I got that shot. Either way, I was still on the right track. I was going to try to go San Jack at JUCO, and then try to get recruited from there. But I always had that in the back of my head. I always believed I was going to get there. And although it didn't come from all the work that I did in terms of emailing coaches or other routes that I thought were going to work out, it came through. And I think for players, what I usually tell them is you do everything you can and hopefully something will work out. And that's basically what happened. It might not be what you think is going to work out, but as long as you try all those variables, then something's gonna pop up.
Yeah. And obviously going to Coastal as well, your grades must have been pretty good coming out of high school. Because is it a tough school to get into? Or I know obviously being Division One, it's going to be semi tough, but
It's no Ivy League, man.
yeah,
I didn't have the best grades in the world in high school, but I did well enough to get accepted, mostly B's and around there. But yeah, it wasn't. I took care of what I could in high school. I wasn't stellar in the classroom, but I took care of what had to be done.
you done what you needed to do and got
Yeah,
kind of the scores you needed, and
correct.
that's of course a big factor in enabling you to go because there's a lot of boys at the moment, and from what I've seen, that are very good players that I think could play at that level, but the academics kind of hold them back a little bit. Is that something similar you've seen since your time now at Jacksonville?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, junior college programs, you see it every day. And you, as a coach, you obviously try to pounce on them, a junior college program, and you get pretty lucky when you see a quality player that just didn't take care of stuff in the classroom. And it could be something small as not even signing up for your ACT or SAT. Um, and I think a lot of student athletes, they miss out on those opportunities because, like I said before, they don't do everything they can to prepare. Um, because even if you don't have offers from D1 programs or D2 or whatever, you should still be doing everything on your part to have everything ready. Um, and that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have the best SAT or ACT, but get it done, do the best you can. And so that's kind of what happened in my scenario, where once Coastal called, I had all my test scores ready. I had, getting to graduate. So Like I said, I was no straight A student, but I got everything done.
Okay.
But it happens a lot, especially with the targets that we have, and a lot of the student athletes, we try to dial in on them, and we try to find the quality kids that they just don't end up doing what they got to do. And as a coach here at a JUCO, you have to set them straight, because at the end of the day, our goal as a junior college coach is to transfer them, is to help them graduate, is to make them eligible. And so if they don't have that done in high school, it's our job at the JUCO level to set that straight.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing with JUCO coaches, helping them to get to that level. And some kids just need that extra year or the extra 2 years to kind of figure it out mentally that, maybe I'm not working hard enough in the classroom, or maybe I'm not good enough right now athletically. And I think that extra year or two is a massive stepping stone for a lot of boys. The next kind of question that kind of rings in my head when talking with you is, you obviously had a pretty good career at Coastal. You've done well from what I've seen. Maybe some guys that I know as well, and everyone speaks pretty highly of you.
Yeah.
What was the kind of thought process in going into coaching rather than trying to play? Was there a time where you were trying to play and it didn't work out, or
I tried it.
Happen?
Yeah, I tried it. I went to a couple clubs, Seattle, Oklahoma City. I tried a couple clubs and tried to go that route. But the thing is, I was always preparing for what if it doesn't work out. And even when I was in college, or even when I was in high school, I always knew, well, what if this whole pro thing doesn't work out? What would I like to do? And it was always something soccer related. I wasn't necessarily sure what it would be. Obviously, coaching was always available as an option. But then again, my 4 years in college, I did sports management. And so every day in class, I was learning about different options in the sports management world. As far as administration, as far as coaching, as far as sports marketing, as far as agents, there was always those options that I was always interested in. And I never knew which route I was going to take. I wanted to play. That was always the main focus. And once you start looking at, is it going to work? Is this the best option for me? I started looking at alternatives. And so while I was pursuing the professional route, I was also emailing people about potentially being a graduate assistant or volunteering. And even in between trials, I was volunteering with youth groups and ODP, and even at Jacksonville College. This is actually how I got the job. I was volunteering and training, looking for another pro opportunity.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff to getting into coaching that a lot of people don't see. It is kind of a bit of a grind profession, if you like.
Yeah.
Not many people are lucky enough to just kind of have it handed to them that here you've got a big job. This is what you've got to do. Everyone kind of starts down low and tries to make their way up. And I think that's one thing that kind of drew me into coaching a little bit was you're not just going to be handed, here's a $90,000 salary. You've got to work your way up from the bottom. You might start off getting paid, $300 a week.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and if you do well, you're fortunate enough to make your way up. So
and if you don't find a way to enjoy that, then you're screwed.
Yeah, it's tough.
So yeah,
going from Coastal to Jacksonville, was that obviously you're from Jacksonville anyway, but like going from a program like Coastal to a program with lower kind of resources that you have at Jacksonville, was that a big, not problem for you, but big difference?
It was a big difference, but like you said, I'm from Jacksonville. I know the area. I know what it's about. Obviously, D1 JUCO, you know the differences in terms of resources. But when I got here, I think Coastal really prepared me for this job. And the reason I say that is because when you look at Coastal Carolina and you look at their record and you look at their history, it's pretty rich soccer-wise. However, resource-wise, compared to the teams they're playing against, they don't necessarily match up. For example, in terms of facilities and resources, Coastal doesn't match up with Stanford, UCLA, Clemson, all these schools, right? But they're able to compete year in and year out. And so that mentality that we had there really prepared me to come here and say, well, if Coastal can match up with Clemson and UNC and UCLA and all these schools, why can't Jacksonville compete with, the Tylers, the Pimas, the old Eastern Floridas, and all these programs, right? So I took that mentality. And obviously the one thing I was surprised about when I got here was the level. Because I grew up around TJC and Jacksonville. I knew these programs a bit, and I knew there were some good players, but I wasn't familiar with how competitive the whole division was.
Yeah.
I had no clue how good some of these players are. And I've been very pleasantly surprised with the level at various schools. I mean, schools you've never heard of have some fantastic players. So I've been pleasantly surprised, but I think I've been able to adapt pretty well because I'm from here, but also just that mentality I think we're trying to instill in this program is don't look at what we don't have. Let's look at what we do have and try to maximize our potential. But yeah.
A good mindset to have, and I think you're spot on when it comes to the JUCO, and there is a lot of good players. I might be biased, but I think the region, down in Texas is, for me, the best, if not one of the best JUCO.
Yeah.
And a lot of them teams can beat a lot of teams in different divisions. So,
absolutely.
Going from Division 1 to JUCO, what would you say is a difference, if there is any, of, why some of these guys maybe don't get to there or some of them do? Like, what's the difference that kind of separates that?
I think there's just more options for the Division 1 programs. I think there's, you can get anybody in the country if you're a Division 1 program, as far as kids from academies, as far as kids from obviously internationals, national team players. I think there's just more teams, if that makes sense, in Division 1. I think in JUCO there's a lot less, and I think there's a big gap between your better JUCOs and your worst JUCOs. I think there's a pretty big gap. However, I mean, there's so many players that come to JUCO because they can't get into NCAA, and it's happening more and more often. I think when I got here, I only knew of a couple teams. I only knew of Tyler. I only knew of Loretto. Really just a couple. And I think a lot of programs are starting to close that gap at the JUCO level. And I don't know if that's, the younger coaches coming through or what it is, but there's a lot of progress being made at the JUCO level. And I think it's a good thing for everybody. I think it's a good thing for NCAA schools because the more I speak to NCAA schools, the more they're recruiting from a couple of schools around here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive advocate of JUCO. I went to JUCO myself, and now I'm at the NCAA level. I'm heavily going after JUCO kids, which you've probably seen.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's smart because they're coming in with a little bit of experience. They already kind of know the structure of the game in America here. I don't want to say they have an edge over freshmen coming in right away, but in a way, I think they do. And I think they're more ready to play right away. Whereas, some guys come over and they do need a year or 6 months or whatever to kind of get used to the culture and style of play, whereas the JUCO kids are now ready.
Yeah, and I think you have a better idea of what to expect from them in a college soccer environment. Because, I mean, as you know, college soccer is completely unique and completely different than anything in the world. And I think I can speak on this. It's not just the internationals that have a problem adjusting to college soccer. I think it's a lot of Americans. I think a lot of Americans struggle to adjust their freshman year just because there's nothing like college soccer. High school soccer is not the same. Club soccer is not the same in terms of lifestyle, in terms of schedule, in terms of environment. Just it's very unique, and you don't know how a kid's going to pan out until they're there. I mean, I've seen tons of crazy good academy players, tons of crazy good national team players, that just don't pan out their first year because they can't adjust for whatever reason. And then you have a couple kids that come from nowhere and they just get it. They just do whatever they do to make that lineup.
Kind of difficult for a lot of people. We even at Northeast, we brought in a couple of boys from Texas that we were expecting, to do really well. And we brought in some boys that maybe we weren't expecting much from.
Yeah.
And sometimes them boys would do better than the ones that we brought in that we had high expectations for. I think it is just that adjustment. How well can you adjust to different styles and different coaches and different tempo? And I guess it's just situational on each person.
Yeah.
Was that a problem for you going in as a freshman, or did you kind of deal with it well?
Yeah, the adjustment was definitely difficult at first. I mean, I had a pretty quick adjustment. but it was difficult. I mean, I had no idea what the level was going to be like. I didn't know it was going to be as strong as it was, or even if I did, it's just different once you're there. But I think what it comes down to is the quality is going to end up showing if you're a good player, if you have the right mentality. Okay. So I think if those two things combine, once you're there, then you'll eventually adapt. It might be in a week, it might be in a couple months, but you'll get there. However, if you have, a very good player that's just not willing to adapt, that doesn't like the college soccer environment, way of playing, and all the unlimited substitutions, regardless of how good they are, if they're not willing to adapt, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And so if you have, a good player and they're willing to adapt and they're willing to do whatever they got to do to play and to win, then they'll be successful. And I think that's what happened in my case, where I knew I had to do whatever I had to do to play. The quality ended up showing eventually.
Okay. So let's kind of reverse a little bit back now to the coaching side. So you've been at Jacksonville for 3 years. I mean, you're probably one of, if not the youngest head coach in the country right now.
Probably. I think
you probably are, especially when you first took over, for sure. I think you definitely. Yeah. Has it been a problem for you, the age kind of thing? Because you're relatively similar age to a lot of the players, maybe a couple of years older. Has it been a bit of a struggle, or have they took to you pretty well there?
I mean, from the beginning, I knew that was going to be an issue. In fact, I overestimated how big of an issue it would be, and I think that helped. And so I really tried my first year to really establish myself in terms of respect and all those things. So I think it went well. And sometimes, fortunately, you always have kids in the middle of the season asking, how old is coach? Is he 28 or 27? Or, they always think I'm a little bit older, which is good. And once they do their research, they figure out how young I am. But by then it's too late.
Yeah.
But no, I've been able to do well in terms of that, adjustment of having the kids respect me. But yeah, it's one of those things that I really worried about at first, and now it's just taking care of itself, really.
I think another thing is obviously coach both programs, the men's and the women.
Yeah.
Myself as well, and it's tough. It is tough. Like I think I only done it for 1 year, and I think I underestimated as well how it was going to be.
Yeah.
After my first year with the guys, and we done really well. I got offered the opportunity to take over the women's team, and I was being kind of naive and a little bit arrogant. I was like, oh, yeah, no problem, like, be easy. So what's your experience been with that, like running two programs at the same time? Obviously, you have Chris down there with you that helps you out a lot. But how's that been, doing juggling two at the same time?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when we're trying to really improve the program rapidly. I mean, as you know, what you want to do is bring in the best players possible and turn the ship around as soon as you can. And it's a little bit more difficult when you have two teams to juggle. And you have to realize those are completely different teams. I think the mistake I did at first was say, this is one program. When in reality, it's two completely different programs with, one coach. And so you have to manage them completely differently, off the field, on the field, in terms of expectations, in terms of recruiting, just everything is completely different. And once we were really able to establish, I think it was this last year, we were really able to pinpoint what the differences were and how we progress each program. Then we really it's become a little bit easier to manage. Obviously, you don't maximize your potential as a coach because you'd like to spend a little bit extra time with the men here and the women here, but you just can't because when you'd like to do extra sessions with the men or with the women, you have the other team's practice.
Yeah.
So it's difficult in that sense. Even for game preparation, you want to spend a little bit more extra time with one team prior to the game, and but you're dealing with the other team's actual game at the moment, and so it's not easy. However, we've been able to manage a little bit better over the last year or so. But it's
Okay. So like, obviously it's tough, but what would you say, going forward, what are the goals you have for the programs? I'm assuming they're pretty similar, even though you said, it's kind of two separate programs. Do they have kind of similar goals for both going forward?
Yeah, no, we're being very ambitious with both of these programs. I think there's a lot of potential to be reached. And I think what we have to do as a coaching staff is really dig down deep and do what we got to do to improve the program in terms of bringing in better players, in terms of providing a better experience for the student athletes, getting out in the community, just a lot of things that we're trying to build the program with. But we want to compete with the very best. Obviously, last year was a bit of a stepping stone for us in terms of going forward. But next year we want to improve not just a bit. We want to be a completely different program in terms of being prominent in our conference. And as you know from experience, if you can be prominent in this conference, you're going to be prominent in this country.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're looking to do. Our main goal is to improve every year. And one team might improve a bit, one team could improve a lot. But we have very high expectations, and we've done it through recruiting. Obviously, you can't have crazy expectations if you don't recruit. And so we've recruited very ambitiously this year, and it's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you've got a couple boys coming in from, kind of all over the world at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that was prominent at Jacksonville before you got there? Is it something you've kind of implemented since you've been in charge?
The international recruiting?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the school has usually had only a couple, but we've been able to work it out through a couple contacts, through doing some research and all that stuff, and we're really trying to expand in terms of where can we find the best quality, and it could be it's various outlets that we're looking at, but we ultimately want to make sure, okay, what can we bring in? What's the best we can bring in? And attack that. And so it has been a lot of international players on both sides in terms of recruiting. So yeah, it's new, but that's what we're looking at mostly. Obviously, we're still trying to bring the best Texas kids we can, but it has been heavily international over this past year.
Yeah, and I think the conference in general right now is pretty heavily dominated.
Yeah.
By internationals, and you do get, of course, some very good Texas kids. I think the thing with the Texas kids right now is if they are, the top Texas kids, and they are eligible, majority of them are going to go to a big university, because there's a lot of talent in Texas, in all areas of Texas. So I think it's a hotbed soccer-wise, and sometimes it is tough for yourself and myself when I was at Northeast to get them Texas kids.
Mm-hmm.
When you do, you kind of like you've struck gold a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works out. And I've got a few boys coming over, Texas kids over here to middle of nowhere in West Virginia.
Yeah.
I think I've got pretty lucky to get them guys in at the NCAA level. So I could see why the conference is so heavily dominated internationally. And that probably does play a factor into why it's so good.
Yeah, and you try to dig as much as you can to find those Texas kids that are going to help your program, and try to steal a couple kids from those bigger schools. But there's the kids from the age of 10, 12, 13. They're looking at those NCAA schools, and if they do the right things, in terms of taking care of things in the classroom, and putting themselves in a place to get recruited, then they're going to go to NCAA or their dream school. So yeah, we have to hunt down those kids that perhaps haven't done something academically, or just haven't been exposed to getting recruited, and we try to find those.
Pretty much.
Do what?
The diamonds in the rough, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So with yourself being a young coach, is there any advice that you'd give to any other young coaches out there that are kind of doing similar to you? Maybe they've finished playing and they're kind of looking at going into coaching, and they're not really sure kind of what route to take. Is there any advice you'd kind of give them to help them as they progress through their coaching career?
Yeah, so just based off my experience, I tried to do everything I could to get out there, to find opportunities, and you never know which one you're going to land on. But at the end of the day, let's say you get a volunteer assistant or you get a head coaching job, I would say just do what you can to improve and learn and get better every year, whether that's as an assistant or manager or head coach, whatever. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to get my assistant coach to improve, and now as a associate athletic director, I'm trying to improve the whole department. And I think it's just that mentality of trying to get better, because I mean, you see some of the best coaches at the NCAA level, they're still learning, they're still trying to improve. And one of the best things that I've been able to do is talk to those coaches with more experience. I always try to pick brains and try to learn from them, try to have conversations, try to watch sessions. And I think that goes a long way. Obviously you pick up a little bit of knowledge from them, but you also build a lot of good relationships. And as you know, that helps a lot in terms of building your program and building yourself as a coach.
Yeah, I think the relationships one is massive. Even myself and yourself, I think just having relationships like that where you can kind of, obviously everyone has their own individual program that they're trying to make successful, but I think everyone can kind of help each other as well. Aspect that maybe I have a kid that can't get into my school, a good player, and I can say, hey Martin, I've got a guy for you. And you can build relationships that way. I think that's something that we did at Northeast Texas pretty heavily, to be honest. People call me all the time and say, oh, where do you find these kids? Like, you've always got all these good kids. And like half the time I'm like, well, I didn't find them. Like someone sent them to me, and I think that just building that web, if you like, of people around you, like good people that are going to help you and support you, is a massive part of the coaching side of things that people don't see. People think, oh, he's won 17 games this year, he must be really good. But it's not just that coach, it's everyone. And I'm sure you'll agree with having Chris and everyone with you there, that everyone kind of chips into that to make the program successful, rather than Martin did everything. He got all the players, he brought all of them in, he coached. I think it's more of a team effort than people kind of notice.
Yeah, and you got to get out there and look for help. If you don't, you're not going to get it. So that's what I've been trying to do. Is you can't expect things to come to you, and I've seen you can't blame it on your situation as far as resources. That's something that from the beginning I didn't want to do. I didn't want to blame it on scholarship situations or stuff like that. I wanted to find ways to improve this program, and relationships has been the biggest one over the past couple of years, in terms of bringing in players and just getting help where I need it. You have to get out there. You can't expect things to come to you. You can't expect other coaches to come help you out if you're not willing to put yourself out there and humble yourself. And so that's really what I've done over the past 2 years. I know I'm very green. I know there's a lot to learn. I know there's a lot of mistakes I'm making at the moment. But if I can catch those mistakes and only make them once, then I think we're going to be in a good situation in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you guys are definitely going in the right direction, and the program is lucky to have you and Chris down there to kind of push yourselves on at the moment. If we can kind of swing it back a little bit and bring in, like, if you had to pick, one or two moments of your college career or your coaching career, as your best moment so far, what would you kind of think of right away if that was asked to you?
One moment?
One or two. It could be one playing, one coaching, whatever you want.
Yeah. As a player, there was a couple moments as a player. Fortunately, I had a very fun career, very successful career in college. I would say the most pleasant ones were obviously winning conference championships and winning NCAA games. I think those specific moments are very special because they're a culmination of a lot of work of the whole season. You could win big games here and there during the season, but if you can do it in the right moments in NCAA time and conference tournament time, then that's special because you know what's at stake and what you're playing for. So I think as a player, those couple of games, conference championships and NCAA appearances, and obviously a couple goals there, here and there. And as a coach, obviously still only a couple years in, but last year, I think going from, a pretty rough season the year before, this second year being able to win some important games against programs that have been established for a while was pretty huge. So beating Tyler, beating, Laredo, beating those programs was good. A good feeling, and it really allows us and gives us that feeling that we're doing something right. And so we want to build off that. We don't want to just win a couple games here and there. We want to be consistent, and we want to expect to win these games from now on. So when we recruit and when we have returners coming back, we expect them to win those games next year. And if they don't, then we'll see what we have to adjust. But I think as a coach, those big wins for sure.
Okay. And then we'll kind of wrap it up a little bit here, but I just wanted to ask you while we had you on, yourself personally, do you have big goals for yourself, aspirations wise, in the coaching kind of environment? Is the aim one day to move on and coach at like a Coastal Carolina or somewhere like that? Would that kind of be a dream of yours to try and coach at the highest level now you are in the coaching environment?
Yeah, I'll always have those goals to reach as high as I can, and as a coach, it's no different. I think I would love to coach at the Division I level, and I see that as a goal that could be accomplished, but I have to take care of what is in front of me, and so I want to be the best junior college coach that I can be. But yes, I do have those aspirations to hopefully one day coach either Division I or Division II, whatever that may be. But yeah, I would love to coach at that level. But you never know. I'm also with this whole the athletic director position, the administrative position, I'm really enjoying that part of it too. And so perhaps a goal may be to be an athletic director in the near future. So I'm really just testing all the options right now and trying to figure out what I'm best at and where I can, help out the most. Because I do want to, at the end of the day, it's not about you as a coach or you as an individual. It's where you can do the best work. And so I think that's important. I think it might be administrative role or it might be a coaching role, but yeah, as highest level as I can get to.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have no problem. To be honest with you, I think you guys have seen from my post earlier. I think for me, Martin is one of the top young coaches in the country for myself right now, and I really enjoyed going against you for the 2 years that we got to play against each other. And
I didn't.
Even though maybe I got in trouble a little bit more than I should have a couple of games, but it was great. I think we always had a good relationship, even though it was really competitive. I think that again is a testament to yourself, and just keep doing what you're doing. I think you're going to be more than fine, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you again somewhere down the line.
Yeah, and I think another good takeaway is I learned a lot from you as well. Although we were competitors, I was able to point out a couple of things that you were doing right and that I wasn't doing yet. And obviously picking your brain in recruiting trips and all that is great too. So I learned a lot from you, and hopefully we do meet down the road.
Yeah, I'm sure you learned a lot of what not to do as well, which is some stuff I think everyone has to work on. So
mostly on the sidelines, huh?
Yeah, a little bit crazy at times. But yeah, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Hopefully everyone that tunes in and watches enjoys the talk, and we can get you back on maybe in a year or so and see kind of where we progress to with the program, and wish you all the best for the next year.
Perfect, man. Thanks. Yeah, after you get those million subscribers, invite me back.
Yeah, I'll try.
Perfect.
All right, man. I appreciate it. We'll chat to you soon.
Sounds good. See you.